And here is Devin McCourty, brought to you by the Top Defense. If you've been injured, Catches Law Group. At Catches, you pay nothing unless they win. They are the official law firm of the New England Patriots. Devin joins us on the Harbor One hotline. Hey.
What's happening?
We got a couple bonus weeks here. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I know. And I took my alarm out of my phone last week after you said bye, so I'm a little late. But, I'm all for this.
We are all for it as well. Actually, Sean McDonough just brought up that you guys were together sideline-wise at that Ravens-Chiefs game, pregame. I'm going to start with what drives me nuts, and it's been the topic this week in many places. Please tell me that it is way too early to bring Patrick Mahomes up in the same conversation as Tom Brady.
I think it's too early to say he's there, but I think it's safe to say he's the only one now chasing what Brady was able to accomplish. Like, I was talking to my friends, and, people were talking about, like, Mahomes is there already. And I'm like, let's slow down. Like, Brady has 35 playoff wins. Mahomes, where he's at compared to where Brady was at in his career, he's ahead. Like, that's great. But playing 23 years in the NFL isn't promised. Like, we can't just think Patrick Mahomes is going to go play 20 years and be able to break all of these records. Like, you don't know that. You don't know what the future holds. But I think he has now put himself close to putting himself in a category that's above the rest of the guys, the rest of the great quarterbacks, and now only trails Tom. Like, I think that's coming sooner than later. As great as Joe Montana was, like, Patrick Mahomes is 2 playoff wins away from being tied with Joe Montana. That's ridiculous to think at this point in his career. So I do think he's putting himself on a whole nother stage where I think he's kind of in a conversation where it's, him, Montana, and Brady, and then everybody else. So he's definitely chasing it, but I wouldn't put him there yet.
Dev, does it help Patrick Mahomes because of the era in football that he is in, where he might not have to play 20 years, where he could potentially play for another 10 years and be consistently right in the mix because of the way the league is as far as the protection of the quarterback, how much they throw the football. Statistically, he'll get all those numbers and might not have a 10-year drought like Brady had, where he will be able to, get him close to the number that Brady has to have the conversation that people might want to have.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance of that. I throw stats out of the window, I think, because of what you just said. I think as the game continues to evolve, especially quarterback numbers are going to be so far greater than all the guys that played before him. It's going to be guys that don't even have anywhere close to the impact that other quarterbacks have had on the game, who's going to have way better numbers when you talk about yards, touchdowns, like all of those things. But I do think it's hard to predict that Mahomes won't have one of these guys that steps up or has one of these teams that come out and beat him. Let's say San Fran wins this Super Bowl, then that's another drought where you don't win a Super Bowl. That's another year you don't win. So it's so hard to predict how that kind of works out. But I think, of course there's a world where, if Kansas City can continue to keep some of those guys in there, because I think that's the difference with Brady. I think Brady went to the Super Bowl, won back-to-back, went all of those times, with that one group of guys, the Vrabels, the Brewskis, the Rodney Harrisons, the Willie McGinnises, the David Pattons, Deion Branch, Jermaine Wiggins, like all of those guys. And then you don't win a Super Bowl for 10 years, and what happens is you're still playing as a quarterback, but all of your other core guys retire, and then you build up this next group of guys, and you win a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls with them. Like, to me, that was what has been great about watching Brady, where I think Mahomes hasn't gone through that yet. He hasn't gone through not playing with Travis Kelce or losing different guys like Chris Jones. Like, he has to then do that, I think, to get into that Brady category.
All right, those who want to knock Brock Purdy call him a game manager, glorified game manager. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, again, you'll hear people. I think football people who are deep in the weeds a game manager is a guy that knows exactly what to do with the ball, when to do with the ball at the right time. Like, call out a game manager, but if you do it in the fourth quarter, you're clutch. So if I'm Brock Purdy, I don't go crazy about that. Like, what he did last week against Detroit, he no longer, out of nowhere, he's no longer a game manager. He's a clutch guy who now separated himself from the Tuas, the Dak Prescotts, all these different guys. But they're going to continue to bring up his measurables and all of those other things. But the honest truth is, every quarterback's great when we look at what they do in the regular season, if they can run and throw deep. But then when we get in the playoffs, we're like, well, none of that matters. Who makes the plays when it counts? And then Brock Purdy does that, and it's like, oh, well, now he's a little better than what he was. So to me, the guy has played really good football. He's done what he's supposed to do. He's taken a team that other people have taken the team. Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, all these guys have had opportunities. If Brock Purdy goes and wins the Super Bowl, then he can't be the same as him. There has to be something different. So it's been fun to watch. And I think anytime you see these stories with, guys who are, the Patrick Mahomes of the world going against the Brock Purdys of the world, it creates an awesome story. And, there's going to be one side of the world who's going to root for the underdog and the other side that wants to see greatness continue to prevail. So it leads up for, a great Super Bowl to watch.
Devin, it was announced that Gerard got himself a special teams coach in Jeremy Springer. And so they've got the DC figured out. They've got special teams figured out. But the OC position, they're still interviewing a bunch of people. Is there a possibility that we could see ourselves in April going into the draft where Gerard Mayo doesn't have an offensive coordinator? And how detrimental would that be?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think all of these things are going to come to a head pretty soon. Like, he doesn't have an OC. There's two teams that don't even have a head coach yet. So I think this kind of process is still playing itself out. Like, I was one of those guys that thought Ben Johnson was definitely taking one of these jobs, and I thought there was an outside chance that Bobby Slowick would be another guy that got a job, and you saw both of these guys go back to their teams and decide to stay. So I think there's still things being worked out. I would imagine in the next couple of weeks, Mayo fills that spot and has an offensive coordinator. But I think he's doing a good job as a first-year head coach, a guy who's been in New England, knows, a lot of the same people, of going and figuring out what else is out there. Like, let me not just interview people I know or come with a great recommendation from somebody I know. Like, let me go into the weeds and interview different people and see what they know and how we connect and can we click together. So I think it's a process and it's playing itself out. But I think more than anything, they need to find the right guy, not necessarily have it done by a certain time, but make sure that guy is a guy that's going to come in there, change the whole offensive dynamic, and allow you to kind of look like, at some point, just look like an NFL offense.
That would be amazing. Devin, could you maybe walk me off the ledge here? There's been some rumor that McDaniels will be the guy and that he would bring Mac back. Do you see a scenario where that comes to fruition?
I don't know. I did a podcast the other day, and I said there could be a world where some OC comes in and does think like, hey, we can win with Mac Jones and then go get better in the draft and free agency around him. Is that Josh McDaniels? Like, I don't know. I know the fan base wants, like, again, this, like, total break from everything that was old in New England. I kind of differ in that. I think the whole, like, let's not do anything that Bill Belichick did is absolutely lunatic. And I think the world that Josh McDaniels was so bad in New England is also ridiculous. So I don't know if that is what's going to happen. I think with no OC being in place, these rumors will continue to roll that Josh McDaniels will be back or Mac's going to be back or Mac's going to get, like, no one will know until that happens. But I'm also not the guy that's sitting here saying, like, please don't bring Josh. Like, Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator. He's very productive. His time in New England as an OC, Mac's year was very productive. Now, I don't know if you can get back to that. I'm also not the guy that's saying if Josh and Mac come back, then it's going to be recreation of 2021. Like, life doesn't work that way. But I think it all has to play itself out. I don't think right now there's this, like, definite that because nothing's happening that Josh McDaniels has the job. I don't think that's it at all either.
I mean, are you one of these guys like Wiggy who says with that number 3 pick you have to take a quarterback, or would you be intrigued by Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I think right now, no offensive coordinator, no true plan in sight. I'm thinking from a player. If I'm a player on that team, I would want to see a quarterback selected. I would want to feel like we're moving in a different direction, a new kind of hope. Like I think the worst thing to go into an off season now, go into a new season, is that feeling of we didn't do much of anything, and as a player to feel like I don't see how this is going to be any different. And I think that's the fear. If you kind of don't take a quarterback, you kind of come back and run it back with a lot of the same things. I think it's the fear of, man, like, how is this going to be different? And honestly, I think 2022 and 2023, I think those seasons was that. I don't think there was enough change in the building, personnel-wise, from players and different things of like, all right, this is going to be way different. Like, I don't think enough happened. And I think that's why you went from 8 and 9 to 4 and 13, because that feeling of like this is kind of the same. And I think you lost a little bit of the fight and the will to win out some of those games to get to 8 wins or 9 wins, because it's not like they got blown out every week. Like, there were a lot of close games where they had shots to win and they just fell short. And I think they need to have, like, there's good change, new head coach. I think the quarterback position is another position that right now, without having some other things in place, when you look at it, it seems like a no-brainer to go get one of these guys in the top 3 that you feel like can be franchise quarterbacks going forward.
When are you heading to Vegas?
Wednesday next week.
All right. We're going to a lot of FaceTime coming up for you?
Should.
Zero FaceTime. I'm going down. I'm a radio guy.
Oh, all right.
Westwood 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
How was that? Because when I was driving back from our event at Aviva Trattoria, I was listening to the radio, and you and your brother were doing the broadcast, right?
Yeah, yep. Well, Iron Eagle.
How was that? Like, how is that to do like a broadcast with your brother? I mean, I know you played, but it's like, you know, both giving your opinions about football, and clearly you both have different views of the game. What's that like to be doing that? Because Brady's going to be in that world next year, and, you know, I guess it's pretty cool to do that with your fam.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I think especially because the hardest thing with having 3 people in the booth is like the amount of time to talk, or like the going back and forth. And I think because we've been around each other for so long, it just naturally flows. Like, we're pointing at each other before we talk, like seeing who's going to go. And then I think people thought with us going in the booth, we both play defensive back and all of those things. We see the game different. I think because he's played for different coaches, what he views as important, what I view. Like last week, we're in the Baltimore-Kansas City game. You know, Kansas City played well all game. Baltimore's defense really shut Kansas City down for the most part in the second half. And he felt like, you know, Baltimore's offense and Lamar Jackson, like, let's go. And I felt like the team in Baltimore, even though Lamar Jackson MVP, it was built on defense, and they were the bullies. And I felt like the way they started the game set the tone, and we were going kind of back and forth with those kind of points, even after the game, of what we thought was the deciding factor. And for me, it was the defense not really showing up in the first half set the tone for the game. So even that back and forth is a lot of fun. And I thought it was cool even hearing Tom on the McAfee show talking about what he's done. And I've heard from different people, like, he's gone to watch games live and broadcasts and watch people. And he said it, like, I have enough notes to write a book. And that's why I think Brady will be good, because he's one of those, like, upsets, never fail guys that he's going to study, he's going to work to be as good as possible. So it's going to be fun, I think, to see him going out there and you know, bringing his unique 23-year career to the booth and all the things he'll talk about. And if he is loose and more open, I think people will enjoy even some of his harder takes that we've heard a little bit of when he talks about the quarterback position. I think it'll be really good when he gets in the booth.
Do you think Bill ends up on TV next season?
I think he's going to make a tough decision.
Oh, man.
AF
Coach
phone.
this year that is going to say, let's go and get Bill. But he has to decide, spend time with the grandkids, hang out for a year, or go do TV. And there's a world where he does a studio show and could do both. So it's definitely a possibility.
We missed the very first part of that, but you think he's making a decision between spend time with the grandkids or go be on TV if no job comes? What do you think he picks, knowing him like you know him?
I think he does a studio show and spends time with the grandkids and goes in the studio once a week.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
And before you go, Devin, congratulations on making Gronk and Edelman's list of most attractive players that they've played with.
Did I make the list or did I just get mentioned?
Well,
It was either you or your brother.
no, it was Devin.
Oh, it was?
There was a list, and then they kind of added you at the end, but I would consider that on the list.
Right?
All right. So he was the token brother who got thrown in.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always got to be
exactly.
one. I mean, you see all the
Yep,
great
that's
shows
what I
growing
was.
up. Saved by the Bell.
I appreciate the love, though, Courtney. I appreciate the love.
You're very welcome.
All right, Dev. We will talk to you next week in advance of the big game. All right.
All right, guys.